Welcome back to the Global Gratitude Summit. I'm Luann Saraga-Walters.
And I'm Sharon Saraga-Walters.
And we're so excited again to have another amazing guest on board today. And this time we're really looking into the topic that starts, I think, perhaps everything, and that is self-love. A lot of times we don't talk about it. We look outside of ourselves. We do things with other people. We are grateful for everything around us, but there's a lot of work that goes into being grateful for ourselves and what that entails. Our guest today understands gratitude from that very personal space. After accidents resulting from behavior and choices which nearly claimed her life, she courageously began an intentional practice of gratitude toward herself. That practice and her passion for being a difference maker has propelled her to the forefront of New Thought, with her message of being intentional, receptive, and aware that this is the greatest moment that you and I have ever lived. Rev Temple Hayes is an ordained minister with both the Center for Spiritual Living and Unity, and she's currently the CEO of First Unity Spiritual Campus in St. Petersburg, Florida. She also serves on the leadership team of the Association of Global New Thought, and she's an author of several books. Her latest, When Did You Die?, is an Amazon bestseller. Rev Temple joins us today to talk about gratitude and self, and we're so honored to have you. Thank you, Rev Temple. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I've been very excited about this project that you and Sharon are working on, and I know it will be life-changing for all people who listen to all of your various guests and the amazing things they're bringing to this summit.
Well, thank you for holding that vision with us, because that's very important and we know the power of that. So I appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
You know, I want to start off, we've known you for many years now, at least a decade, and have just really, you've touched my life in a very personal way. You have led so many thousands of people towards the greater relationship with self, which I wasn't really aware of until hearing the many talks in which you speak about your own journey, what that could look like from a profoundly personal level. And I wanted to start off by asking you to share a little bit of that. When did you become aware of your own personal need to have that reflection of self?
Well, it started early on for me that what was my inner dialogue and the external world were two very different things. What I felt inside as a child, what I could see, what I could visualize energetically with people, the auras of people, and all of those kind of things, and how I felt inside about being connected to something greater than myself. Call it nature, call it God, whatever you want to call it. But that part of me was in a place of groundedness, and yet there was nothing in the external to reflect or mirror back to me that I was spot on, you know. So there was this sense of, what is this about? And I know that God does not make mistakes. And I was brought up in a Southern Baptist upbringing, that what I was hearing based upon who I was spiritually and based upon who I was sexually, that particular God was not for me at all. Actually, I was in some other category. And so those early wounds, or that particular woundology, if you will, then started this process where, because I felt abandoned externally or didn't feel seen, I went into that saboteur within myself that says, I'm going to hide. I'm not going to let anybody see the real me, because, wow, what a way to start out, you know, when you're just now going on 13. So it became essential, because that inside kept expanding, you know, this longing to know there was a lot more about me to be discovered. So I had to come to this place of recognizing that I was created for a reason. And though it wasn't comfortable, it was necessary. And in that vulnerability, I realized there were times that actually I was all I had. So this was, you know, long before meeting.com and let me tweet you and see how you're connecting. And let me join a Facebook group going, are you the only one out there? I mean, those were different times then,
You've talked several times about how you took the initial first steps, and just like you just said, that it wasn't comfortable, but it was necessary. What did that look like in particular for you? I mean, how did you get to the point where you said, okay, I need to, and what did you do to really grasp that? I need to show myself some attention, some appreciation, some gratitude, some love.
I had to get in touch with the virus of lying, because I had been so misinformed. I had been so misinformed about what your creator is and what it is like to be unique. And in that misinformation, then I became more and more part of a self-acclaimed prophecy, if you will, that I'm here created for a reason. I'm here to be a difference maker. And I've got a lot to share. But when you look in the mirror and you say, I believe that there's a loving creator, and I believe that life is possible, when the energy that you're now carrying inside yourself says everything but the opposite of that, then you're living a lie yourself. In other words, I've come to realize that it's very simple math. Until you really, really, really are in gratitude, you are who you are, and this is the way it is, in your beauty, in your glory, in everything that you are, and your soul path. Until you really get that as a truth, then when people say to you, if you haven't accepted that, and someone says to you, I had some friends the other day, and they were just so taken back by you. Inside your dialogue is misinformation. Inside your dialogue is a lie. And you're going, well, that's really nice. Isn't that special? But I know that can't be true. If somebody is saying to you from a platform or from a summit or from a healing venue, there's a creator that loves you and anything is possible in your life, and you are living out that misinformation and that lie, it is absolutely unbelievable. Just like when you don't feel good about what you're wearing, the clothes you're wearing, or the way your hair looks, and you see somebody out and about and they go, you look great. And you're thinking, why are you lying to me? So it all must come from a place of amazing gratitude that who I am is who I am. And I have been created for a reason. And as I step into a deepening of love for that, then I can get that when I hear that word love around me, it is not only real and authentic, it's believable.
Yeah, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
You touched on our next phase of questioning, so I was putting a little bit of change up to Sharon's question, but I really wanted to go ahead and ask her that. We've reformatted it because you hit on something that I really want to follow up with.
Yeah, that was great, Temple. Thank you. So why is the intentional act of gratitude important?
Intentional being what you were just talking about. How can you intend that?
Well, because every day of your life is a practice. And you're coming from a place of what you focus on grows. I mean, all of us know, regardless of how many books and self-help programs we've gone to or bought or purchased or whatever, at the end of the day, it's about every day is an opportunity for us to focus on what is possible. And so when you begin each day with just the essence of, I woke up this morning, oh my gosh, and I have my whole family crew around me, both living human beings and furry creatures going, welcome, it's a new day. And I'm outside and I'm honoring, and the birds are singing, and the wind is against my face. And I start my day with that feeling of how grateful, how rich it is that there is a purpose for my life because I am here. Then that's that platform, that's that full cup. And so it's kind of like we used to say in the old days, are you living a full cup or a half empty cup? And so you're starting that full day, but it is intentional, because if you aren't with laser focus putting into your efforts what you're grateful for, you start sliding away, because before you know it, then you're on to other things, or social media has grabbed you and putting you in a different direction. And it really is, it's intentional, and often, excuse me, though it is natural for the whole universe to be in a place of gratitude, it also at times has to be planned.
Mhm.
You have to plan for it. Like, one of the things I learned a few years ago is never do Facebook at night. Because Facebook is a place that at night, when you are going into that deep beginning, some people call it sleep, others of us call it when we're really awakening, because into other dimensional realities of expansion, you see. And we're into that dream state that's revealing things to us about our soul and about our path. And what I observed is, I would go on Facebook and I would be in such a great space. And all of a sudden I'm reading about people on newsfeed I don't know, and somebody close to them has died, and I start then feeling grief. And this other person is talking about something that happened to these animals and stuff. Do I want to know about that stuff? Yes. Do I genuinely care? Yes. But there's a time in the plan for gratitude and receptivity that is essential to have a more balanced life.
Mm-hmm.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I've heard you talk about intentional acts towards yourself, but intentional acts of gratitude about life. That's a great concept too.
Mm-hmm.
You have an experience that I'd love for you to share, and that was in practicing. There was a certain practice that you did of writing down. I think you know what I'm talking about. Writing down a certain number of things. And why was that important to you to do about yourself?
I was very fortunate in my life. As we say, we always attract to us the people or the animals that we need in different archetypes. And I was fortunate that, though the majority of my life I have been fortunate to have love with a woman, there was a man that showed up in my life when I was in ministerial school. And he pushed just about every button I think I ever had, in a good way, meaning that he was like, his parents were 45 when he was born. He was an only child. They never thought they would have a child. They were very well-to-do, and everything evolved and revolved around Jack. So I had lived a life of that misinformation, of discounting my worth, of though I came across from the external picture as being put together well, and by that I'm not talking about my physical looks, I'm talking about the clothing and the shoes and the accessories of all that. I looked like I really had it together, but inside I was still living out that misinformation. And so for me, I lived more in a space of, I'll get to everything in the world first, and then I'll get to me. And as you know, that dynamic, me never came. The time for me never came. The outfits to buy for me, the appreciation and enveloping in that self-love was not mine. And so here comes this man in my life that wants to be in relationship with me. And it was so easy for him to be like, it's just all about him. It is just all about him. And I had to really, I enjoyed my therapy during that time, because what I understood is that was my disowned self. I was dismissing and trying to live out my own misinformation and projecting that on him, because through knowing him, I started watching what he did and how he was and how he had this abundant life. And every day he would sit down and he would write down 50 things that he loved about himself. Wow. When he taught me that, I was kind of embarrassed to reveal some of my initial feelings. I did later, and he and I are still the dearest of friends. But later I did say to him, you have no idea how long I stared at that page. Mm-hmm. I could come up with 4 or 5. Mm-hmm. There was no way that I could come up with 50 things that I loved about myself. I went on to do that for like 4 or 5 years, and it was life altering. I still have a pair of glasses that say 50, that every now and then I look at, and it reminds me of those moments. I still every now and then will do that exercise. But it totally tunes you into a place of gratitude and just an emotional acceptance of all that is.
Thank you. So I have another question for you.
All right.
How does gratitude toward yourself open you up to others?
It's like, gratitude is really honoring what we see. You see it. You see a change in yourself, so it could be your psychology. You see a change in your friends, so it could be spiritual evolution. You see an energy of calmness around you, or you see your true connection to nature, that, the pelican really flew over your head and you noticed it the first time. Gratitude is what you see. And when you're into the practice of gratitude, what begins to happen is you start to experience the grace, which is that whole other level of creation. That is what you don't usually see. And you see the grace, you see the spaces between what isn't and what can be. And that opens you up, because when you have grace, then you have developed that practice of self-appreciation and realization. And so when you look to others, you begin to only see that about them, because your eyes change, your ears change, and I'm not necessarily limiting myself to the five senses.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe intuition, it may be an inner hearing, but you can start to understand someone's deepening of what it is like in reverence of what it must like to be them. And sometimes when I'm with people, I can easily, if it's one-on-one, I can easily weep, because what my soul feels is the pain and the sadness of what it's been like to be them when they never have really been themselves. That is a hard space. That's a hard space.
Yeah. Now, that takes us into, if we can talk about some practicality. You talked about the exercise that you did, that Jack had taught you, about writing down 50 things every day that that you liked about yourself, and I'm going to change it a little bit and say that you're grateful for about yourself. But what are some of the other tools to practice that you have in your toolkit that you pull out sometimes to use to express or to connect you, I guess, to the gratitude within?
A walking meditation is very powerful. Whether it doesn't have to be like you spend the whole day walking in the mountains. It can be just a 15 or 20-minute walk. Walking meditation is very powerful. It calms down the teacher archetype. It works with the shadow self that can become, self-righteous and arrogant and knowing a lot of things. That's very powerful. As you know, I surround myself with animals, and I always have. I have pets in my home. I have 5, and I surround myself with that aspect of nature, and I find that to be very soothing. Being around water is essential for the emotional body to help one stay in a place of gratefulness. And if you don't live near water, you can listen to water on your computer, your iPad, your iPhone, the sound of water moving, and those kind of things really make a difference. For me, I drum, I do chanting, I anchor myself with music that the moment I hear it, I'm there. I'm just absolutely there. Just that first little beat, I'm there. In another place of being self-actualized. I think the other thing I just want to highlight, because I think that sometimes it's kind of like people who have an issue about money, they need to talk about money more than anybody else. And they're so quick to discount people that talk about money, or say, yeah, they just never will get enough of it or whatever. And it's because there's an issue there. And I just want to highlight that when I'm talking about self-love, I don't want to be discounted. I don't want it to be that, oh, look at her, wow, isn't that nice? This privileged person that, stopped drinking and almost killing herself, 31 years sobriety, that look at her, whoop-de-doo, now self-love, that's so nice. It's self-love is about the glorification of the very reason that you were created to be on the planet. We're not talking arrogance. We're not talking self-proclaimed heroism or getting off on yourself in the mirror. We're talking about getting to a place that you really recognize that you are totally in line with the reason that you were birthed on the earth. I think it's Mark Twain that says there's two important days in our lives: the day we were born and the day we know why. That's what self-love is.
Yeah, well, what made me think about this, I think for most, I know for myself, it used to be gratitude. It was so much easier to be grateful about everything else outside of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was one thing I remember. And in writing my gratitude journals, because I would write about gratitude in my home, my work, relationships, family, friends. But I really, I intentionally now, and have been doing quite so much of this, is starting with self, because it was so easy to do everybody else, but not self. So it goes really, it's so right about the self is so important with gratitude to really start there, I think.
Well, and I agree with her, and I want to kind of launch into with you being.
It completes the whole.
Did it freeze up on you?
Just for a moment.
Are we back? Yeah, it's been, and thank you to our viewers and listeners too, because we've had that once or twice through each of the interviews, and then it all of a sudden it'll catch up really quickly, and your mouth moves very fast, but you can hear everything, which is the benefit of this. But who would have thought 10 years ago we couldn't have done this?
I know, and the universe is just allowing everybody an opportunity to take a breath.
I love it.
Because we're talking about some very significant things here.
Wonderful things too. And so I have one final question. Well, actually I have two, so I'm not going to say that, but I wanted to know really quickly if you had any particular role models who were the role models of difference makers in your life. Who do you look up to and say, that's the kind of difference maker that I love to see show up in the world?
Well, all of mine are no longer living. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Gandhi, and Mother, now Saint Teresa.
Yeah.
Those are my three that I really pull from and draw from and communicate with on whatever level that looks. And every now and then, an Abraham Lincoln or an Einstein or a Twain will come through, but those are my top three.
What's the primary quality of those three that resonates with you?
They were difference makers.
Oh, well, see, there you go. Yeah. That answers that question.
They were difference makers. They were able to beat to a sound of a different kind of drum, regardless of circumstances.
And they were able to push through, like you were talking about. They pushed through that fear. There's something that you talk about in When Did You Die? That you talk about moving from fear to feeling to freedom, and what that is. And I think that it really applies to our conversation today. But can you explain that a little bit for our audience?
Yeah, well, I've heard a lot of different platitudes and cliches about, like feel the fear and do it anyway. And that lasts for 5 minutes and then you're afraid again. Or, we are a society that often we have been taught, and especially living in the era of such strong addiction through self-prescribed or pharmaceuticals of medication, or other things that we do to numb ourselves, that we've gotten away from the raw feelings that we have. And that being said, what I mean by that is you know, from feeling to that feeling to ultimately freedom, is you begin in your life to have a gratitude that you are a feeling human being.
Wow.
If we were created to be robotic and just push a button, go to the next thing, go to the play. Oh, be happy tonight, put on your good face. If we were supposed to be robotic, we would have been designed that way. So in how it applies to gratitude is being grateful that you have the feelings in the first place. It's kind of like when someone says, oh, that was a loud noise. Oh, wow, that was a loud noise. It's like the next moment is, I'm so grateful I can hear, right? And so when I'm delving into those feelings and being grateful for sadness, being grateful for sorrow, being grateful for grief, being grateful for joy, being grateful for anger, it's not any of those that by themselves are out of balance. It's the denial of them, which is what we're witnessing on out loud all over the place now with this red arthritis kind of rageful energy of people that we always thought, even before they were in high officer positions, that they had done a little therapy, but we're seeing it all out loud now. And that comes from the denial of feelings, not the revelation or the realization of them.
I want to summarize that because I think that's a really hugely important point, which
Yes.
is it's okay to feel, it's okay to have non-grateful feelings. It's intentional we're intended to be human and have those kinds of emotions and that awareness of what's going on. But the practice of gratitude and the practice of self-love guides us towards seeing more than that. It's not, we're not encased in just that, what we can see all aspects of life. That's always been something that has resonated with me about your message. And, you know, I believe like you do that we're in this certain place at a certain time because we're drawn towards that. And I needed to hear that. And I remember the first time I heard you speak, and it was also online. And I watched 3 or 4 of your talks because I just was like, wow, this was really feeding me. And it was something that I truly needed to seek. And your message of being grateful to be you, you know, grateful to be me, from good to amazing, from, you know, everything that you have done is the intentional spirit. Everything that you have done has been a message of I am. And wow, look at this. And I get to be me. Not just I am proud to be me, but I get to be me. There's a joy that you bring to it that I really admire and love. And I want to thank you for that because it's been really significant from, you know, for our lives. And it's just helped me develop. So
thank you so much.
We have a final question for you to wrap up the talk.
So we ask all of our guests, and so what the question is, what is your personal definition of gratitude, Temple? What is your personal definition of gratitude?
Having the ability to see and feel what's right in front of you as raw, as gifted, and as a blessing.
Beautiful. Wow, thank you.
I like that. Really
so great. Wow, here we are. This just went by so fast, but thank you for being a guest on our show today, the Global Gratitude Summit. This is our first annual. We hope to make it a second and third and a fourth and a repetitive thing. But what you bring to not just, well, you're part of the Global Alliance, so what you bring to the world is really a necessary message. And thank you for being open to yourself to hear it. Thank you for listening to yourself and your spirit and hearing what is guiding you to the message that's yours to share. Because we never know where it lands, but I'm one to say it landed right here. And I want to thank you for that. And I know that there are thousands of listeners too who are hearing the same from your message today. So thank you so much.
Namaste.
And thank you, Temple, for being you and just bringing out the self. I appreciate that. You bringing out the self in gratitude, so others can really, explore that, because it really is important. And for you being a difference maker, I think we can't have enough of those. And you certainly do it very well. And thank you for all you do.
And I do want to let people know how they can get a hold of you. You've got another book coming out soon. You also have When Did You Die, which is available on Amazon, as well as a couple of other books. But templehayes.com or .org, I can't remember.
TempleHayes.com.
Okay. TempleHayes.com, and that will link them to, you have a variety of nonprofits that you're involved in as well. So learn more about Temple, hear more from her message, and visit TempleHayes.com. And again, thank you, and we're wrapping up the show for today.
Thank you.